All right, everyone. Welcome to this session for the 2024 RevTech Summit. I am joined by the one and only Dan Caffey. Dan, how are you doing, man?
Doing great. Happy to be here, Billy.
Yeah, excited to talk. For those of you that don't know Dan, Dan is amazing. He is currently founder and CEO at Vose. He also was CEO at Neutron Interactive and Team as well, among other things. And we're going to be talking about a few things around technology, specifically for field sales, kind of what probably is an underserved area. And but let's get into it. You've got a super interesting backstory, and I would love for everyone to hear like how you got into tech and looking for really not selling tech to other tech companies, but those industries that are not tech, and how to get in and recognize those opportunities.
Yeah, thanks. So I got into tech when I was in college. I started my first company, and it was in e-commerce. And then I just got a bug for it. I just loved doing it. I realized how much fun I had building and creating, and just have been building companies ever since. The first real sort of successful one was in the trucking industry, and that's when I first learned about the idea that there's a whole world out there that's separate from tech. So building tech for industries that sometimes have been left behind by tech or just are ignored by the larger tech industry, and the opportunity there is enormous for what I like to call big, boring, profitable, real businesses. They have a lot of money and a lot of needs, and they are the backbone of the American economy. So that's where I like to put a lot of my focus. I feel like in the tech space, no offense to anyone, I'm a venture capitalist and an investor as well, but a lot of it really is just, like we said, tech bros making software for tech bros, and nothing wrong with it. But I think there's a much bigger market out there, and they need software too. They need solutions, and they're great businesses.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, you mentioned your first venture was for trucking. Tell us just a little bit about like what was the problem you solved? What were you guys doing?
So the problem that they were experiencing was it's a high turnover industry. So in the trucking industry, hiring drivers was, at the time, there was like 130% annual turnover, which is incredible. It's a great job that doesn't require a ton of education, and you can make a really good living as a driver, but it's tough doing over the road driving. You're gone a lot from your family. And it wears and tears sometimes. And so there was a huge turnover, and they were doing most of the recruiting in a very antiquated way. And so my partner and I came up with a way of doing it online, and built a recruitment tech platform to be able to manage that entire process and help companies keep butts in seats, is the term that we used to use, keep those trucks on the road. And it was a very successful business. And that grew into a much wider business, but that's really where we started. And because of that, we got exposure. We're going to the Great American Truck Show, right? You're going to these different kind of conferences, and you realize that these are phenomenal businesses, great people, and they need solutions as much as the tech startups.
Yeah. So right now with Vose, your solution is really for field sales, which is like tech companies, like basically most tech companies are all in on like the inside sales model, unless you're doing huge enterprise deals. But for the most part, like I worked at inside sales way back in the day, it's a model that works for them. But when I think field sales, I traditionally think like a little more blue collar. I actually worked in construction and commercial real estate, and like people would just show up at the office, like it was kind of very old school. They'd show up, they'd give us their presentation, we'd go to lunch, what have you.
Yeah.
But what does Vose do for like field sales reps? Like what's the big problem?
So Vose solves what we call the LMFU problem, which is, Monday right before pipe review and sales, they go quick into the CRM and type LMFU, left message follow up. And as my CRO would say, it's with a capital FU to the sales manager a lot of the time, right? It's just not a lot of useful information. And it's really hard to forecast and manage a sales team based on that kind of information. And so the question is, why would these reps, who are very good reps, some of the best sales guys around, even bother putting that in? And it's just because they don't see any value in it. They're required to do it, but they're not seeing value. It takes time out of their day, right? And they get paid by the sale. So they need to be out there moving. So they view it as a waste of time. So we look at, how do we solve this problem to make sure we get all of this rich information that's coming from these reps in the field into the company, so that the company can see it, manage around it, make forecasting, and really to help the reps make more sales and make more money. Ultimately, that's the goal of sales, right? So we do that in a few ways. First one is by lowering the barrier to getting information in. So they can use their voice, they can write out notes on paper, they can take pictures of invoices, make it as easy as possible so that it doesn't take time away from what they're doing. A lot of these field reps, again, are driving routes. So they're in a truck, they're in a car going between these visits. A lot of, they're moving physical goods, a lot of them. And so, they don't really have time to whip out a computer and start doing drop downs in Salesforce. That's just not something that's going to happen. So we solve it that way. And then the other way that we get them to engage is by taking all of this information and processing it and providing valuable, digestible feedback that they can actually do something with. And we provide it to the reps and to the managers. The key difference between what we do and what a lot of the other solutions do is that this is designed for the actual sales reps. Most CRMs are not. They're designed just for the management, and the reps tend to hate them. And there's very few positions in a company that would be more aligned than sales management and the sales reps. They're all bonused on the same thing. They got to get more revenue, make more sales, and yet there's a lot of conflict that we see sometimes, and a lot of that is introduced by the software solutions that they're using. It actually creates some of the conflict. So we try and solve that and bring them all together, and help everyone make more money and make everyone happy.
Okay. So let me back up in just a minute. So sales rep, I'm out, I'm making my visits for the day. I can do a voice memo recapping things. I can take my notes from when I was sitting down with the customer, snap a picture. You guys are going to recap that, put it in there, and then even create like the follow-up actions so that I can get reminded, hey, I need to call Jim and on Monday afternoon, or email Jenny a quote by end of day, something like that.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah. So a typical example, right? You have a rep, let's say in commercial tire. So these are huge industries. Some of these reps are doing, $5-10 million a year in sales. These are some of the highest performing reps. Our users are some of the best sales pros in the world.
Yeah.
He goes in, he's commercial tire sales rep going in and go meet with a trucking company. On the way out, just puts in his AirPods. Hey, I just met with John Thompson. Looks like we'll do another 48 grand this month. We could do an extra 10 grand if we get those X750s in stock. I need to follow up with him. It's his wife's birthday on the 17th, and ask about his kid's soccer game. I remember I got him a quote for this much on this, and I need to get back to him with a quote on this. I need to follow up on this in 3 weeks for this. It'll go through, take all that information, enter it into our system or into, if they have a CRM or an ERP or a dealer management system, we can enter it there, set the follow-ups and everything. And they can do that with their voice, again, writing, do whatever they need to. Now all that information in a very short period of time, while they're just walking or driving to their next appointment, while they're still in the field, is going straight into the system of record. And it goes right to the manager. The manager can see it and say, hey, we just got those X700s in stock. Call them back and close the deal. Oh, great. So that communication, that's essentially real time. When you have a lot of information and it's timely, man, you can leverage that to make a lot more money and a lot more sales. So again, that's what our goal is: get the information and turn it into dollars.
I like it. So one thing, for the last couple of years, everyone got away from meeting with their customers in person because of COVID. But now those restrictions are largely gone. We've been able to get out and sit down with a lot more of our customers in person. I love it. But what are your thoughts on like field sales? Like, it's very in person. It's all in person. Like, what's the advantages of that versus the inside sales model, in your opinion?
So the sales reps that use our product, again, they're some of the very best sales pros that I've ever worked with. But their sales motion is fundamentally different than a lot of inside sales or software tech sales, where it's not, I'm just getting a lead in and then trying to move it through a pipeline, close it, and pass it off to CS. It's very much relationship based. So some of these deals that these reps have, they've had them for 10 years or more. The company's been working these deals, and really it's about fostering that relationship. And that works, to be honest, much better in person. The other reason that it's really important for our user to be in person is a lot of them are moving physical goods. So heavy equipment dealers, they're selling very expensive, say Freightliner trucks, for example, or Caterpillar, or they're manufacturer reps. So they represent these different lines from these large manufacturers. And the customers, one, they want to be able to see, touch, feel, smell the goods and see what they're actually buying. That's not as important with software solutions, but it really is when you're selling these very expensive, large, big ticket purchases. And the other reason is, with these relationships, they want to know who they're buying from. It's very important to the people in this space that there's a level of trust, and that's just, easier to establish when you've shaken their hand in real life and going to lunch with them and building a real long-term relationship.
Agreed on that. So with the, I like your technology, and I think that's huge, to just make it easy on these guys. They're busy, and especially creating the follow-up task automatically. What do you think is the evolution of the current tools for field sales? Like what's kind of the next step that's probably coming?
So the biggest change in the industry is with the new LLMs, with AI and the capabilities of it. So I don't think it'll ever replace the humans in the process, especially in the industries that we work in, where the humans are so vital to the process, but they can turn the humans into superhumans. That's really what I see the beauty of AI. So the humans are inputting this information and helping to, track all their interactions with the capabilities we have now with AI to process that information and find patterns and find predictive models. And really just even, it functions almost like a personal assistant for the reps and for the sales managers to be able to spot trends and identify ahead of time who's struggling, which of your reps is going to run into some issues, or which of your reps is just killing it out there and why. What are they doing different? And I think that is where you really see it just evolve to the next level. It's more than just tracking. It's now the analysis and being able to find useful, actionable information in the mass amounts of data.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's something we do within our product, is we're using AI to say, okay, what's working, let's help you do more of that for your people. And what's not working, let's quit doing this. So
yeah, I mean, it's such a big help. And I think honestly, what we'll see is over the next few years, anybody, any sales team that's not incorporating some level of AI into their process is probably going to be operating inefficiently. They're missing out on some. They're going to be missing out on revenue and on sales. And this is a Rev Tech Summit, so it's all about that revenue, right? I think it's cool, but cool is only part of it. The coolest part of it is the money that you can make from it.
Yeah, agreed. I'm with you on the AI is never going to entirely replace people for most things, especially these big ticket purchases. You still want somebody, whether it's you're spending $100,000 on a piece of software or $100,000 on an excavator or something like that. You still want somebody that you can look in the eye and say, hey, you're going to take care of me if something goes wrong. But having the AI make that more scalable so that you can be more productive, you can get things done with either less people or quickly, whatever it may be. I think it's going to play a huge going forward.
Yeah, you make better decisions. And I think the two main things, you make better decisions and faster decisions. So a lot of times, when you don't have a lot of information or when you have too much information, there's just so much deliberation. Should I do this or should I do this? And I think this is what's working. My gut says this, my gut says this. It's nice when your gut can be validated or corrected by all the data that's there. So that's kind of what I think is the main advantage.
I agree. The AI if nothing else, like really can validate like what you think, if what you think is wrong or right as a sales rep.
Yep.
With our own team using our product, I mean, last month I had a guy, he lost a deal at the last minute. And then we went in and looked at our product, because part of what we do is help them predict, like, hey, is this going to happen? Yes or no? And I was like, man, you weren't even looking, at this account, because we probably lost this deal a month ago.
Yeah.
Just based on all the signs.
Yeah. And I think for your customers, that's a huge value add, right? To be able to say, look, we can not just help you track it, but eventually we'll get to where we can help you predict what's going to happen, so you can prevent it from falling through, right? And see it ahead of time.
See the warning signs, try to get ahead of it. Yeah, I mean, and I love what you guys are doing. We're real actionable things, because I think a lot of AI right now is more like, okay, like I can help you do something. Yeah, and it's kind of fun. There's a lot of fun things,
Yep.
And there's a lot of observational things, but real saying, okay, do this, help me stay on track with what I need to be doing. That's huge. That's huge, because for anyone, the more organized you are, the more productive you're going to be on getting everything done that you need. So,
yeah, I saw a customer doing this, and I think this is something that you guys probably are into as well, and can get into, is, that again, that predictive of, this is a sale that's looks like it's going to close, and it's based on data, or it looks like it's going to fall through, and what action can you take? And like you said with that one, when you look at the data, you could probably see a month ahead that this deal was going to fall through. Imagine when you're taking that to existing customers, or right, like, hey, who's about to churn? And if you could tell ahead of time, and because you can't call everybody every day. That's not going to work. It's not scalable. But if you have the capability of following these patterns and seeing who really needs the attention, I think that's just going to be a game changer. And so I'm excited for the future.
Yeah, I think keeping a customer is always better than having to go and find a new customer.
Yeah.
So I agree with you on that. Okay, Dan, is there anything else that you want to share that you think, hey, here's what's coming? Here are thoughts on what's new with RevTech that's interesting to you?
I just feel like the future looks really, really fun. As someone, I've worked in AI for probably 15 years. And over the past 2 years, the leap in technology and the sort of relative cost of it, it's just unbelievable. And I love, I love companies like Signals also that are just taking advantage of that. I love, technology. So often it's like you said, it's sometimes a party gimmick, or it just seems, oh, you can make a cool picture with it, or do something like that. And that is really fun, and that does help fuel it. But when we're seeing now what companies like Vose and Signals and others are doing, where it's not just a party trick, it's turning this AI into revenue. It's actually driving real sales. It's actually driving real behavior. That's when it's really going to be a revolution, right? When it's not just look, I can have it render a funny album cover, or something. No, this is real stuff that's valuable to these companies, and it's valuable to our customers, right? It's actually driving real value for them. So I'm just really excited about where it's all headed.
Okay, as am I. Well, thank you for joining us, and everyone, will let you get to the next session. But yeah, thank you again, Dan. And if you have a field sales team, you should check out what Dan is doing over at Vose.
Thanks, Billy.